Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on the MCC Games channel. Today, we'll be going through a Dimension Police deck profile for Premium Post Premium Collection 2022. So without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. So, starting off with the starter, we just play a simple Wii starter. Nothing too crazy, no Superior Right Goyusha or Metabot Black Boy, the old version to, Superior Right and Legion, none of that, just a simple Wii starter. Next up, for the main gear of the deck, we play 4 Dieliner. So Dieliner has been the face for DP ever since his release, due to his immense pressure and as well his continuous skill that gives all our grade 3s plus 10k shield on the Vanguard circle, and when you ride him up, you have a skill for once per turn act, counter +1 soul +1, look at the top 7 cards of your deck and add a normal unit to your hand. If you did add a normal unit that is grade 3, he gets plus 20k and a crit. So on your right up turn, which DP will forever be riding up first due to us not having a grade 2 game presence, you're going to be swinging on a force 2 marker for minimally 33k with 3 crits, which if you are damage denying your opponent or if your opponent needs the damage at the first turn, they are most likely going to take it. And this allows you to either one-shot your opponent right there and then, or put them so far behind the game that you losing first strike isn't the worst thing in the world, because you can still make up ground with the high damage you can put him up with Dieliner. So we obviously play him, combos very well with Geoma Glass, which we'll be getting into soon. But yeah, 4 copies of Dieliner. Next up, we play 4 copies of Dizaurus. Now, Dizaurus is a very good support card for DP in general, as he says. His Vanguard circle doesn't matter, but we're going through it. He gets plus 5k for each damage you have during your turn on the Vanguard circle. But we play him for mainly his Vanguard circle skill, which is Auto, Vanguard circle. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your Vanguard power was 35k or greater, you may counter +1, put him into your soul. Your Vanguard gets plus 10k power and a drive. So this combos very well with both your Gallop and Unibird, as well as Stuck if you do ever go into him. This essentially makes your Vanguard have more drives, more pressure and more power, which is something that DP is very good at doing and needs to do. With more drives, you have more chances to proc Linka. Your opponent also feels scared and wants to put more PGs down to guard them. So 4 Dizauruses. Last but not least, we play 3 Diams. Diam's skill is extremely simple. When placed on Vanguard circle or Vanguard circle, if your opponent has 10 or more cards in your hand, your front row units get plus 30k. So if your opponent has 10 cards in hand, which is extremely likely in premium of all formats, your front row gets plus 30k. It makes your Gallop hit numbers, makes your Unibird hit numbers, makes your Geoma Glass turn even more threatening, forcing your opponent to either PG there and then itself. It's an amazing card to have, and you don't need 4 anymore since we have grade 3 recursions, so 3 is more than enough at this point. Moving on to the grade 2s, we play 4 Die Dumpers. So this can honestly be anything you want. If you're not a fan of Die Dumper, you can run the new grade 2 that came out in Clan Collection Volume 3, Endless Road, if you want to get the refund draw. You can run literally anything that's a 10k base, or even if you have a greater grade 2s like the Enigment one, sorry, not the new one, the one that gets plus 15k shield if your opponent's a grade greater than you, you could run that. But in my opinion, Die Dumper is still the best option here, mainly because his first skill is a mini liner, which says Vanguard circle all your grade 3s get plus 10k shield. So if you're playing against a deck that can aggressively push you early on, or you're playing against anything that's superior, right, like Riviere, Grand Blue now, because everyone's the main deck you're going to see is Scatic Turbo, anything that is able to get first strike on you and while you're still on grade 2, and anything that can is grade 3 turn is grade 3 right at turn is very explosive and aggressive. This basically lets you survive it. It also has a Vanguard circle skill that says Auto, when this unit attacks, you may have it get plus 10k. If you do, retire at the end of battle. So on a Geoma Glass turn, swing it for 20k, pop it, call something into the circle it was on. So you do multi attacks with it. Next up, we play 4 Gale Sludge. I think Gale Sludge is pretty important for the mere fact that it's one of the only ways that DP can draw. While it is a situational draw and your opponent can just go yes ICB and you don't get the draw, it's still a body on the board, and it's also 9k base, which means if you're playing against decks that run 10k bases on grade 2, you can swing under with him, which is also pretty important in this format. Next, we play 4 Eternity Chaser. This is the main grade 1 of the deck. You always want to ride him, just for the mere fact that his skill has, when you roll upon, you may discard a card from your hand and reveal a grade 3 normal unit. If you did, you may search for a grade 3 that is a different card there's a different name for the unit that you revealed. So this fixes your right. It searches you heal guard if you already have your right. If you already have heal guards and you don't need any more, you can take a Diarm, a Dizaurus to get your key pieces that you need for both your push and kill turns. It also has a pretty neat second skill, which is Beggar Rearguard Circle. If the attacking rearguard was 25k or less, you may Sober's one, retire this unit, and your Vanguard cannot be hit until the end of the battle. So it's basically a 15k shield in the back row, which is pretty decent, and in certain scenarios you will have to use him. If you're playing against Bartholomew, the new Grand Blue Strike, and they call a Night Storm usually only hits for like a 21k column. So instead of wasting 3 cards on him to guard it, this 1 card in your back row rearguard can do the trick for you. So yeah, 4 Eternity Chasers. Next up, this is the flex part of the deck. I play 3 draw heads, but you can play anything, and I'll get into certain alternatives that you could play here. But draw head is a very simple skill as well. When placed on Guardian Circle, counter +1, and your opponent cannot boost until the end of the turn. So first of all, it doesn't target any rearguards, it targets the player itself. So it bypasses all forms of resist. Basically, the main matchups where you're going to be using this is Regalia, because this turns off non. So them doing their Minerva combos, their Amaruda combos, restanding their rearguards, restanding their Vanguard, getting a lot of drives, a lot of attacks with big crit, big power. This just turns it off, which makes Regalia a very easy matchup for DP to play. And you may say, okay, but they can just swing with Vanguard first, boosted by it, and then they still get a restand. Yes, they do, but you're blocking off another 2 attacks that they could have gotten from their Force 2 rearguard with Regalia in his name boosted by non, which is usually the CEO it gets ill. So this limits the explosiveness that Regalia as a deck has, and it makes it a rather easy matchup for DP to actually dominate and win in. Just for the mere fact that our grade 3s are so big that we can afford to guard 2 Vanguard swings. So instead of draw head, you could run Taser Large, which I know is a very fan favorite alternative, but my reasoning for not running Taser Large is that Large the main matchup that Large is used in is Nightmare Dolls. And personally, I don't really feel afraid of Nightmare Dolls as much as I should be, which is probably a me issue, but I think with draw head and with the way I play DP and the way DP can damage deny and damage control a deck, NMDs is a very winnable matchup already for me. Another matchup where you can say Taser Large's favorite is in Grand Blue, but obviously Grand Blue has ways to deal with it in the main phase. While it may cost them CB and it's probably more worth it in that matchup, I still prefer draw head due to the variety of matchups that draw head is effective in. Instead of this, you could also play Honolly, which is arguably one of the most important disruption cards post Payment Collection 2022. If you have Honolly, it shuts down multitude of tier 1 and tier 2 decks, giving your deck the out to everything. But the issue with Honolly in DP is that we don't really have usable counter charge, neither do we have main phase counter charge. The 2 counter charges that you see people playing are either mid battle phase or end of turn counter charge. So calling down Honolly at certain intervals can be very awkward, let's say, and it might feel like a break in your hand. So Honolly isn't the most useful card in DP in that sense. But if you do want to run Honolly, by all means you should, because it's still one of the most important disruptions in the game, especially now. So instead of draw head, if you don't like him, Honolly, Taser Large, whichever one you want. I went with draw head because that's my personal preference, but playstyles differ according to players. So you have these 3 options to run in this spot. Moving on to our form of counter charge, we play 3 Enigma Blancs. So this used to be Grand Wisdom for most players, right? But in DP currently, our soul cost is very necessary, especially with the new G-Guards, it costs a soul. So I opted for Blanc, because the issue with Wisdom that I had was you're always going to call over it on your Geoma Glass turn. So he's never actually going into your soul to fill your soul cost. Whereas this, you can put it in the back row, right, to still get your soul cost. So Enigma Blanc says, Rearguard Circle GB2. At the beginning of your attack step, you may put this unit into your soul. If you do, counter charge 1. So it's both a counter charge and a soul. It also has an in-soul skill that you're never really going to use, but it may come out in certain scenarios. Burst. You may you may put this unit from your soul into your drop. If your Vanguard is 10k or greater, you may give it plus 4k. If your Vanguard is 35k or greater, you may give it another plus 4k. So at all times, you're going to be giving your Vanguard at least plus 8k. Because all your burst Vanguards are going to be minimally more than 35k. So yeah, I run 3 of this as the form of counter charge in the deck, and you can run Wisdom if you want, but like I said, this just feels less awkward to use than than Wisdom was. Next up, we play 2 Commander Laurels, so it's dropped down from 3. For the sheer fact that DP doesn't really need to spam Laurel as much as it does now, as much as it used to with Gallop and Stuck. For the sheer fact that we now have Unibird that is always going to be a 3k Vanguard. So when pushing for 3 to 6, you still have the potential with Unibird. But Laurel is still necessary for Gallop turns or Stuck turns to just make it even more scary. So we still run 2. You can run 3 if you want, you can just cut a draw head down to this, but for me I think 2 is the perfect number. Next up, we play 2 Grade 1 PGs in the form of Grand Monk. So Grand Monk has a very simple, has 2 skills that are pretty good, but we're playing for his second skill, which I'll get into later. So when placed on Guided Cycle, discard 1, your Vanguard cannot be hit the usual, but if the attacking unit was 30k or greater, you draw 1. So it's essentially a free PG in certain scenarios. Sorry, not a free PG, a 1-card PG in certain scenarios. And his second skill, which is why you're mainly playing from, drops on GB1. You may bind this unit face up and give 6 of your units Vanguard Circle, Vanguard Circle, resist. So this is very important. In terms of denial place on your rearguards, in terms of Grand Blue's G-Guard that can minus crit on your Vanguard, in terms of Shirayuki to minus power on your Vanguard, and basically anything that has destruction plays that targets, this just turns off completely. Which is very important considering that you're going to be seeing a lot of Shirayukis, you're going to be seeing a lot of Grand Blues. Grand Blue has both the denial play as well as the minus crit play. So it's very important that you take note of this and run at least 2 of this. I know people like playing Animan Com for the fact that it's a recurring PG, but I feel like this just has more utility than than Calm serves in the form of being a recurring PG. Moving on to the triggers, we play 4 strike hit and 1 going to soul crit. 4 strike hits because of the sheer fact that you don't really want to discard your glitches despite being able to recur them. You still want to use them for guarding because as long as you've stroked once into Geomon Glass and you flipped out 1, your great cheese are bigger than your trigger shields already. So you still want to keep more strike hits than soul crits. Next up, arguably the most important trigger in your deck and the win con of your deck, for Linka. So Linka, as we all know, is the card that enables DP to have Sentinel Break. Linka's skill says, Burst, GB2, put this unit into your soul. If your Vanguard is 20k or greater, draw 1. If your Vanguard is 35k or greater and has the Burst ability, give it the ability that when your dry check reveals a Great Tree, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's Sentinels with the Does Not Be Hit ability and nullify it. So combo this with Unibird, combo this with Gallop, and you have your kill turn and you have your kill turn basically. 1 Linka means every Great Tree, 2 Linka means every Great Tree equals to 2, and so on and so on. So having 2 Linka on a Gallop and saying here's 8 drives, 2 Linka on the Unibird saying here's 7 drives, your opponent is going to die. Unless obviously they have PG guards. So yeah, speaking about PG guards, if you're playing against clans that have the counter to you, so minusing crits or using PG guards, you need to know when to time your Linkas, when to time your kill turns. You need to be able to amass your hand to survive their kill turn as well, because in this format, your second strike is usually your kill turn. If you're going past your second strike, there's been a misplay in both you and your opponent's game plan. Maybe you check OT or something. So you need to always take into account that if I'm playing against a PG guard deck, I want to bait you out to use your PG guard once. Make sure that I know how many G guards are out, I know how many PGs are out, and calculate all of that to see, okay, I need X amount of cards in my hand this turn to survive your next go turn. Following that, I will have enough to still kill you the next turn with a Linka Gallop or Linka Unibird or something. When I know that you don't have any more G guards in hand, I know you can't PG guard me, so you either have the hard guard or PG guard, which I can, disrupt. So take into note that when you're playing. To run out the PGs, we play 2 draw PGs. Simple, straightforward. 4 hill guards. I don't think I need to explain why these are cracked in DP. They are 45k shield. They also enable your insane G guard in Giramegos. so 4 of it. And last but not least, 1 Brigade OT. Check it, big funny, big crit, big power, big funny. So, you know. Moving on to the G zone. We play 4 Geomagas. So, Geomagas has been the easiest introduction into DP and has been what has been allowing DP to have its reputation as a tanky deck as well as a deck that can survive. So, Geomagas skill is very simple. Continuous. Vanguard or G zone face up. All your great cheese on Rearguard Circle or Guardian Circle get plus 5k power, plus 5k shield and intercept. So 4 face up plus die liner makes all your great cheese 30k guard and your heal guards are 45k guard. And then Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks, counter plus 1, flip something in your G zone face up. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, call up to 2 cards to Rearguard. And then for every great cheese you have, he gets plus 1 crit. So you can only threaten for 4 crit, 5 crit, 6 crit even on first strike to damage deny your opponent, limit the amount of CB they have. This is also your form of multi-attack in DP, which is something you hardly see. And it's also the most important strike and freight fodder that you have. I know in English they are like $45 or something per copy, but you need 4 in order to play DP. You could try and get away with 2, but 4 is optimal and most necessary. Next up, we played 2 of the new strike, Galaxy Unibird. So this has been one of the most welcome introduction into DP for the longest time for me. It's finally another usable burst Vanguard that we have gotten after a long time. Our only burst usable Vanguard was Gallop. So Unibird says, Vanguard Circle continues. It gets plus 10k for each of your damage as well as your field. So 5 cards on the field, 5 damage, that's plus 100k to your Vanguard already. But the most important part, Burst. Vanguard Circle 1 pattern, when this unit attacks, cause flip something in your G zone face up. And this unit power is 50k or greater, it gets plus 1 crit. And it was 100k or greater, it gets plus 2 drives. So on if he reaches 100k, him by himself is 100k, 5 drives, 3 crit Vanguard on the force 2 marker. Pair that with Dizaurus, 7 drives. Pair that with Linker, you got guard break on him. So compared to Gallop, his condition to reach 100k is much easier due to you not having to, you know, have GB3 to get the power or have, you know, more face up in your G zone to reach the 80k. You can easily attain it since, you know, DP, you can go to high damage and you can call down a field. It also is 3 crit compared to Gallop's base 2 crit without using Laurel. So if you're trying to go from, let's say NMDs, you limit them to 3 damage or 2 damage max, right? You want to go 3 crit, 3 crit instead of going for Gallop with 2-2. So you don't have to overcommit on the Laurel as well. It's a free cost strike as well. Unlike Gallop, will cost a CB and requires a lot more setup, this is much easier to obtain and it's free horse, which is something that DP will welcome very much. So yeah, we played 2. You can play 3, but I think 2 is perfect enough because you're not going to go into a 3rd Unibird or a 3rd Gallop max in your game. Next up, we still played 2 Gallop just for the sheer fact that he's still an amazing Vanguard to have, and he's also a restanding Vanguard. So at certain scenarios, instead of going for the big 7 drive or play with Unibird that requires a lot less setup, if you had the setup and you know that your opponent needs to guard at 2 different intervals for PGs and you know they don't have that enough in their hand, Gallop is still a better play. So it is very situational based. If I want to bait out the PGs, I can go for Unibird since it's free cost, requires less setup. If I want to go for kill turn, I can go for Gallop since it's a restanding Vanguard. So Gallop skill, as you all know, burst. When this unit attacks, counter plus 1, flip anything in your G zone face up. If his power is 40k or greater, it gets drive plus 1. At the end of the battle, you attack. If his power is 80k or greater, restand it, drive minus 4. So with a double Zorus, it's a 6 drive and then a 2 drives. And on continuous Vanguard Circle GB3, this unit gets plus 10k power for each face up card you have in your G zone. So that's how you reach your thresholds. You use Laurels to pump him, his power, pump his crit, make it a really unguardable number. So we still play 2. 2 Unibird and 2 Gallop, I think is the correct ratio to run. But you can always mix around the ratio to your own liking. We play 1 Daiking. So Daiking is the GB, and you actually do go into it sometimes nowadays because of how much you G-guard. So Daiking skill says GB8. When this unit gets plus 10k power and plus 1 crit for each of the ray guards. So Fulfill, plus 50k and plus 1 crit. At the end of the battle, you attack. If his power is 80k or greater, for each of the crit, your ray guards get plus 10k power. So in a force 2 with a full field is a 7 crit Vanguard. So each of your units get plus 70k. So if you don't kill with your Gallop, you don't kill your Unibird, you can go into this for the kill. And obviously it's free cost. Last for the stripes, you play 1 Stuck still. So Stuck is still important in the games where you've been pushed a lot, or you need to have triple restanding Vanguard. Your opponent plays Big Kun, your opponent plays the OG Brilliant Blister. This is your way to counter it, because Big Kun only works, people only run 1 Big Kun, right? So if they guard with Big Kun, they can't use it for the 3rd attack. And Brilliant Blister says that your Vanguard needs to be rested, right? So this plays around it. Yeah, so you still need that 1 Stuck. It's a very seldom that it does come out, but when it does, you will regret not having it. Moving on to the G-Guards. So, the best G-Guard to ever come out for DP, and for a long time I believe, will be Gyarados, the new G-Guard from Premium Collection. So his skill is very simple, but extremely important. When placed on Guardian Circle, so +1, if you did, you may take up to 2 normal unit grade 3s from your drop to your hand. And for every one that you add, he gets plus 5k shield. So, place him on Guardian Circle, take 2 grade 3s from drop, he's 25k shield. On top of that, you're adding grade 3s, which are your biggest shield in the deck, as well as the most important cards in terms of combo pieces. So he's amazing. I would play F4 if I could, but playing 4 of 1 G-Guard is never been a good idea. So 3 of it, you want to G-Guard into him all the time. Despite your heal guards being way bigger than he could attain, the total shield value that you recover exceeds the G-Guard, that's right, exceed your heal guard's raw potential itself. So run 3 of him. Next up, we play 1 GO5. So GO5 is just there if you don't have the setup for Gyarados and you need to, your opponent is asking for 30k show and you don't want to, drop multiple cards from your hand. He's still good for that one-off situation, so we run 1 of him. We also play 1 Excalibur. The only reason we run him is because he's the only free cost G-Guard that DP has that is semi-usable. So he's just a 25k show if your opponent's unit is 30k or greater, but free cost. That's the one reason we run him. And last but not least, we play 1 Zil. So Zil's importance is about the fact that you can give your Vanguard plus 5k. So against dolls or against anything that pokes you for multiple times, you want to G-Guard into this to, give your Vanguard the plus 5, and then, with your defensive, you reach 28k base. Leslie's can't hit, Alice's can't hit. So you still want to run him at least at 1 copy. And with that, we come to the end of the deck profile. If you all have any ideas how to make this deck better, please feel free to leave so in the comments. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments as well, and we will get back to you. With that said, subscribe, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye. Thank you all for watching. Click like, smash the like button. That sounds cringe as fuck. Cut this part out. Let me restart this scene.